Hello, my name is Tim Keenan. I'm on the board of the Cypress Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for attending today for the Cypress Chamber of Commerce inaugural informational webinar series. This is number one in a series that we're hoping to have in 2021. Today, it's lessons learned and how Cypress businesses and organizations are tackling the pandemic, and we have a great panel. And moderating the panel is the chairwoman of the Cypress Chamber of Commerce, Shelley Henderson. We also have some sponsors we want to acknowledge. Our presenting sponsors for our webinar series and for our breakfast in 2021 is going to be Kinetic Mortgage. We're really thankful to Kinetic Mortgage, glad that they could be here and participate in that. And also OC Breeze, that's oc-breeze.com, West Orange County news and information site, chaired by Shelley Henderson, edited by Shelley Henderson. And our third sponsor is Creative Media Recording. That's me. I own a recording service here in Orange County for business. And I'm now going to introduce Shelley Henderson. Shelley, as we heard, is the chair for 2021 of the Cypress Chamber of Commerce board, and also the editor, OC Breeze. And Shelley, I'll let you go ahead and take it away. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Tim, for handling all of the buttons and switches. It's always very helpful when you do that. Things run smoothly. I am Shelley Henderson. I am editor of Orange County Breeze, and I am happy to chair this panel because there is lots of information out there about how to cope with being a business, a nonprofit, a government agency during the current pandemic conditions. Don't feel like you're alone and isolated just because the state tells you to stay home and don't go anywhere. We will start with self-introduction, starting with Hank McCall, and going then to Colleen Jensen and John Pete and Pete Grant. Introduce yourselves, give your affiliation. You can even give contact information, and after that, we'll start in on the questions. Hank.
Thank you, Tim and Shelley, for holding the meeting. Yeah, Hank and Mockle is how I say it. Mockle.
Okay.
The importance of that is because when the time came in 2010 where I wanted to enact my website, I was looking for a name. I didn't want to use my corporate name, so we came upon Mach 5 Insurance. So a little play on my last name. Again, an insurance agent broker here in town. We work with all the personal lines. We're an authorized Mercury agent. So I'll have an opportunity a little later to talk about how the impact of the COVID shutdowns affected us.
Okay, thank you. Colleen, you're next.
Good morning, I'm Colleen Jansen. I am the public relations person for the Women's Club of Cypress. We have 83 members, hardworking members in our community. If you need to reach us later, you can reach me by email at wccypressca@gmail.com. I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, Mr. Pete.
Hello, my name is John Pete. I'm currently serving as the mayor for the city of Cypress. I've been on the city council starting my 7th year now. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to serve the city. And I look forward to this important discussion because we have, as a city, have worked hard and have a lot of good rapport with the community, and we are really want to make sure that our businesses are successful. And so we are very engaged with the business community and look forward to today's discussion.
And Mr. Grant.
Pete Grant, Cypress City Manager. I am the city CEO. All of its day-to-day operations run through me. I report to the city council. They are the community's board of directors. Really glad to be here today. The city has, I think, an especially unique perspective. We're both affected by the pandemic as a corporation, but our customers, whether they be residential or commercial, are hard hit, and we've got a role supporting them. And it has been a challenge to balance those two things for sure. And we look forward to talking about that a little bit.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself. I want to remind our listeners that they can put questions in the Q&A section, and we will address those at the end of the meeting. Now, our first topic of discussion is where you found yourself and your business or nonprofit or government agency when the state declared that we all had to stay home. That was last March 2020, March 17th, if I remember correctly. What did you do? Where was your standing? How did you look forward to continuing operations? Hank first.
Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, it was an extremely difficult time. Probably one of the things that would differentiate someone in my position in the insurance industry from perhaps our fellow business owners that might be our customers in the restaurant or the contractor business is that we have residual income. We have renewal business. So we're fortunate in that way. When the time came where it was evident and the word came out that, you know, businesses were to be shuttered, it was something that we made the decision to do here at our office. Signs were posted. Basically, you know, we are only accepting absolutely essential, and even the mail service, we left the door closed and the mail service even had to drop. So fortunately, we didn't have all the package deliveries as came later in the year. But what it did essentially to us was, as a light switch, completely shut off any new business. And this went on for a total period of 3 months. So that created a substantial impact. The other problem was we have 3 people working here in the office in our agency. And my partner, he essentially immediately had to begin working from home, got 2 young children. His wife is a nurse. So we had to really, truly try to, on the fly, figure out how to go from the environment of in the office to split remote work environment. And that was an enormous challenge.
Okay. So Colleen, what did the Women's Club of Cypress face on March 2020?
I think there were quite a few issues for our membership. Although we do have younger members that work, the vast majority of our members are retired because they have the time to contribute to the community. We had our annual spring tea scheduled for May. We had just printed the tickets. We were ready to start selling everything and getting the event off the ground, and that came to a screeching halt. We have monthly game nights where we raise money for different charity organizations where members get together and play bunco or left, center, right, or some other little game, and we all throw some money into it, and that money gets given out to charities. That came to a screeching halt. And our meetings too. We meet once a month for about 2 hours, and that ended. So everybody was immediately isolated. Now, some of our members, the ones that are much older, some are even widowed, and instantly they were 100% alone 100% of the time, and only saw family members 2 to 3 times a month when they dropped off groceries. Additionally, a lot of them were in the high risk group. And in the beginning, when they weren't sure how exactly this was passing around, how to protect yourself, etc., basically they were just stuck at home. Many of them did not have computer access. So some of the things that we could have done maybe over the computer were not possible, at least at the beginning, until grandchildren and children started coming out of the woodwork, helping to connect some of our older members. We thought we'd wait out the summer and then start our meetings again in September, because normally we're closed down mid-June till September. And so we just thought, you know, kind of hold back for a couple of months, and in September we'll launch again. I know we're going to talk a little bit later about some of the immediate responses we did, and I'll talk about those then. But initially it was just helping to quell the fears that people had and figure out what we're going to do with no income for scholarships and events, etc.
All right. Mr. Pete, from the point of view of the city council, what did What condition did Cypress find itself in when the edict came down from the state?
Yes, well, we've looked at things from a couple of perspectives. One was, how do we continue to provide the essential services for the city? And I'll let Mr. Grant provide more details, but how do we provide the essential services of policing and day-to-day operations of the city in an environment where we have to work remotely? And so we really spent a lot of time and energy, and I commend our staff for the great work to figure out how do we move, close down City Hall essentially to keep everybody safe and allow people to work from home. So we did a lot of, spent a lot of time figuring out how to provide the services from home or remotely. And then we started looking out at how can the city support the community? We started taking an accounting of what are the needs that are going to be arising in the community, and how can we support the nonprofits, the business community, residents. We started gathering information and trying to figure out what is it that the community is going to need in this new operating environment, and how can the city provide the services that are essential and also support the community through this. The city, we are in a very solid position. We have strong reserves. This city has, through its history, been very fiscally prudent. We have good reserves. The city councils and the leaders generations before us set up a great operations and very sound, prudent processes that we have followed, and so we find the city to be in very solid footing, strong position. We have reserves that we are able to draw upon if needed. So the city's in very good, strong position, and but that's our biggest challenge, I think, was how do you provide services remotely in this new environment. That was, I think, our biggest challenge.
Okay, you have operational details, Mr. Grant? You're muted.
Our biggest challenge initially was getting small quickly to protect employees, but recognize that we're a 24/7, 365 operation in public works for the sewer system, certainly in the police department, and that we run quite literally life-sustaining programs with our meal deliveries for seniors through Recreation Community Services. We had to get those programs transitioned so that they could do what they needed to do, but in an environment where supporting them on the back end didn't expose anybody to the virus. We were wildly successful in that regard. And until this most recent surge, across about 150 full-time employees, we'd only had 3 folks develop corona. Now that's changed dramatically since Thanksgiving. The explosion in the virus that you've seen across the community has hit the organization hard as well. And that's a big challenge. We've got about 50 police officers who are out in shifts of 6. If one of them contracts the virus or exposed, you potentially lose an entire shift of police officers. Similar concerns with the way we handle meal distribution programs to the community. But we're fortunate on the back end, a lot of knowledge workers. So we were able to transition their functions home pretty effectively. We'd never done it before in that kind of a scale, but it worked out okay. The bigger challenge has been kind of a moving target by the state on our recreation and cultural programming. We never know what we can or cannot do. The state changes the rules and gives us real-time notice. Usually the media finds out about it before we do. And then, of course, the governor's approach to self-compliance on all of the health orders has put us in a difficult position of trying to strike a reasonable balance and encourage people to be responsible and protect their neighbors when a lot of the community has the expectation that we're going to come in aggressively and enforce health orders. So yeah, that's a precarious line to walk, trying to keep everybody safe while still promoting things you can do safely to maintain your mental health, whether it be recreation or be outdoors or dining responsibly in whatever form or fashion the state allows.
Okay, as for my own company, Orange County Breeze, the first thing we did was close our office. And we went a step further than Hank did. We actually closed the office. So we emptied the office that we had, which I loved, over Los Alamitos Boulevard. I loved looking out of that window and watching the traffic go by or creep by, or depending on the time of day. And there were so many things that were within easy walking distance from the office, but we closed it because we saw that our ad sales revenues were likely to plummet. If businesses were generating no revenue themselves, they wouldn't be paying us to run ads. Now, you can make the argument all day long about, well, if you don't advertise, you're not going to generate any revenues. But from the point of view of the businesses, they didn't have the money to begin with. So we looked hard at chopping out just about any possible fixed cost, and that rent was a big fixed cost. So we went remote and are basically a home-based business now. So far, we haven't killed one another, and it's worked out fine because it has provided us with enough flexibility that we can promote local businesses and nonprofits without requiring that an ad is paid for. Not that we're going to refuse payment, but we want the community to remain strong. So we are working in that fashion. Now, think back to, September, since Colleen brought that up, when everybody thought we'd all be back to normal. We began to get that sinking feeling that we really weren't going to be all back to normal anytime soon, especially since the state kept changing the goalposts and the virus kept spreading despite the changing goalposts. So, what did you do in response to move forward, given that suddenly you couldn't look forward to everything opening up by Christmas time or Thanksgiving? Hank?
Yeah, Shelley, you're exactly right. One, I think, difference that we found ourselves in from where you is that we had our carriers and the Department of Insurance. And if we'll remember back, this event had no planning. This wasn't something that in December and January, when we were all creating our business plans, was anywhere remotely near our radar screens. From a carrier standpoint, from an agency standpoint, we are only as good as our carriers. In other words, I can be an agent, but without the ability to place insurance with carriers, I have nothing to offer you. So I say that because one of the first things that we found was that as insurance agents, we were deemed essential workers. So the carriers at that point, and we're an independent agency, but we're also an authorized Mercury agent. So we really looked to them for a lot of guidance. But what they were doing at that point in time, and if you've ever driven up the 57 freeway and looked over to the right-hand side and seen the giant Mercury building there, they were in the process of all of their individuals in the office having to be transitioned to a work from home environment. We also found ourselves in that position. So what we had to do was literally work on the fly. The last 2 weeks of March were quite literally, what do we do? How do we stay in communication with our clients? How do we work from home? And what we had to do was try to figure out what software programs were available for us to utilize, because we didn't have the same infrastructure that the carriers had. So there were, there was a software program called Remote PC, where from home, from a laptop, you log in to your desktop and you are able to function, but there is a serious security problem.
Mhm.
So this was what we had to work within. Now, fortunately, since the office was shut down, but we were able to mitigate some of that risk. But that was what we initially utilized. There were benefits and advantages of things that we were able to take, that we were able to utilize, the PPP and also the Small Business Relief Grant. And I'll talk about those in a little bit, if I may.
Mhm. Okay, Colleen, September comes around and there are no events in prospect. What did the Women's Club do?
Actually, we started prior to September. We figured nothing would be happening as far as our meetings until September, but realized rapidly that it's sort of like when you get on the plane and they say if there's an emergency, put on your mask first before you try to help someone else. So we figured we need to put our mask on first. We needed to focus our efforts on our members. So the first thing we did is made a phone call to every single member within the first day 2 and day 3 of the lockdown to find out, are you okay? Do you have someone to help you get groceries? Is there anything you need? And you may forget, but there was a huge deal about toilet paper. So
Oh yeah,
that was one of our questions. Do you need anything like toilet paper delivered onto your front porch? And if someone had excess and was willing to drive to someone's house and leave it on their front porch, all the better. So the first thing we did is put on our mask and try to take care of each other. And we did that almost every month for the first few months. Every member got a call once a month. Are you okay? Is there anything you need? Because these are people that are used to being the ones helping other people. Now, all of a sudden, they might be the one that needs a little bit of help, but they might not be willing to ask. So we would offer. And it was nice to see that people enjoyed talking to each other and appreciated the help that we could provide to each other. Then one member sent out greeting cards, created like pandemic themed greeting cards and sent them out about once a month or every other month to every member to just say, hey, we're thinking about you. And isn't this funny? We're kind of all in this situation together. Hey, if you need any help, be sure and speak up. We're there for you. We had some of our members, we had about 20 of them that were completely alone in their home. And so a member made baked goods and delivered about once a week or every other week some baked goods to those people, letting them know they were coming, leave it on their porch and walk away, sometimes have a little conversation from the front door. But again, just little touches to make sure that our members knew that we didn't forget about them. And if they need help, we're there. Then eventually baked goods went out to all members. And what we did is the person would bake and then a bunch of volunteers would show up, pick up a route of people to deliver to and deliver baked goods to them. Then we decided it was time to get our members used to Zoom because it was looking like that's probably how we were going to have to meet. So I became what they call the Zoomologist. I knew nothing about Zoom, but I learned it, figured it out. And then I had a tiara I would wear. So I was the Royal Zoomologist. Because why not? And
sure.
so what we did is we did two things. One, our Legislation and Public Policy Committee that meets once a month continued to meet. And they're the group that looks at legislation or city development or things that are going on that our members want to know about. So we started holding those meetings, which is smaller groups. Then we decided, let's have a way to entice our members to try Zoom. So what we did is we had bingo. And it was free to attend, but we were raising money for charity on the side. So if people wanted to make a donation, they could, but it wasn't a requirement. Our prices were little nominal things, often things that people like Hank might have that they give out at events, pens and pads of paper and other little things like that. We would make up little gift bags. And so the prizes were nominal, but it enticed the women. They wanted to play bingo. And so they would call their kids and grandkids and say, okay, I want to do this bingo thing. I need you to set me up. And so suddenly we had women even in their 80s and 90s who had never used a computer or a tablet were motivated to get on that computer or tablet and have their kids or grandkids get them set up. So it was kind of fun. They think of everything they've seen in their life, and now they're talking to people and they can see the faces on the other end. So it was really quite exciting. We raised some money for charity, and we've been holding the bingos about every other month. So we don't charge for it. It's free. It's just for fun, but we ask if they'd like to send a donation, they can. And what's been really great is some members of the community have donated prizes, companies that have donated little giveaways and stuff that we can give out. So it's actually become quite a fun activity for our members and helped us reconnect, so that once our meetings started again in September, they already knew how to use Zoom and we were up and running.
Excellent. Fabulous. Mayor Pete, same question.
Yes. Well, first I want to say, you know, my wife Bonnie is a member of the Women's Club, and the Women's Club has been awesome in reaching out and serving the needs of the community. So compliments to the Women's Club. Many of our nonprofits have done a great job, and they have absolutely been leading the way in serving the community. So thank you for doing that. So the city, you know, once we started figuring out how to continue to provide our services, we also began, as I mentioned earlier, looking out and saying, okay, what can we as a city do to assist businesses and members of the community? So the council, you know, directed staff through Mr. Grant here to look at what can we do to help businesses accomplish what was allowed as the moved around. So for example, we were allowed to gather outside and have eat meals outside and have restaurants serve outside, have churches meet outside. So we reached out to all of the restaurants and said, you know, if you are interested in setting up an outside operation, we want to help you by making the permitting process to allow for the restaurants to set up as easy and fast as possible. So we went out and engaged the restaurants and said, if you want to do this, we want to help you. And so we helped the restaurants move as quickly as we could through the process of getting permits to set up dining operations out in their parking lot, and letting them know that the city wanted to be a partner with them and that they didn't have to be concerned about violating rules if they did certain things. We went out and explained to them what was possible, how to move through the process to get the permitting process as quickly as possible accomplished, and that we wanted to be their partner and help them be successful. Excuse me. We also reached out to some of the churches and said the same thing. If you want to set up operations, a tent or something out in your parking lot, we want to help you. We want you to be successful. So we have worked diligently to help our business community and our community at large live within the means that the governor has put forward in terms of what is possible in terms of operations. So we've tried to do that, to be as good a partner as we can with the community. We also recognize that the nonprofits are going to suffer losses by not being able to hold events, fundraising events and activities. And so we took a survey of we have 30 nonprofits that are partners with the city, and we reached out to all of them and asked them to let us know what losses are you anticipating, and what needs do you have. Early on, we attempted to make understand what those financial needs were and see if the city could make a contribution to each of the nonprofits to help them be successful, stay afloat, because we recognize that our nonprofits provide a lot of essential services to the community that the city would have to hire more staff and to provide for, like the Women's Club, like the Boys and Girls Club. They provide essential services. And so we recognize the value that our nonprofits provide, and we reached out to them to see what is it going to take to help you be successful. We weren't able to make initial grants to them in the September timeframe or the November timeframe, but we have modified our grant process so that in the coming spring cycle, where we ask our nonprofits for what their needs are, they will be able to tell us what losses or additional costs they have incurred, and we will hopefully in this coming spring be able to support our nonprofits financially.
Okay, Mr. Grant, do you have details to add? You're muted.
I know. I was saying I'm going to unmute myself this time. And I guess I was saying it only to myself. As a big employer, we had the fun behind the scenes stuff to tackle before we were able to reopen for a while there as well, whether it was a reopening plan or additional employment protocols that the state requires us to put in place. The bureaucratic challenges of being a big employer and being open as an essential service during COVID have been no small obstacle, especially with employee associations with whom we have an obligation to meet and confer about working conditions, which includes keeping them safe. So lots of things like that I find wildly fascinating have been happening behind the scenes without anyone noticing. In addition to the programs that the mayor talked about, the city was recently nominated for an award for the Orange County Business Council for our first round of small business relief grants that rolled out in the summer. At last night's meeting, the council approved another $1.9 million worth of direct support programs in the community related to the pandemic. 2 of them are active now. One is another round of small business support that we call resiliency grants. That has funding of $750,000 from the city and an additional $158,000 from the county's general fund. And then we have a supplement to our existing food distribution programs we're calling community plates that pairs anyone who was already receiving food from either the city, Cypress School District, or the Boys and Girls Club with Cypress restaurants to add hot meals to what has been nothing but a smorgasbord of Salisbury steaks for the last 9 months or so. We have served, and this is remarkable, it got mentioned at last night's council meeting, more than 40,000 meals through our program since March. And that was typically done in a congregate fashion at the senior center or through Meals on Wheels. We've never had this sort of broad pickup or distribution program before. And the partner providers that we worked with weren't capable of scaling up as quickly as we needed to. So we had recreation community services staff partnering with local grocery stores to buy additional frozen meals so that we were able to get those out to the folks who need them. We also have a monthly commodities distribution. Think of those as shelf-stable products that folks that need them can come by and pick up. Our recreation group has been really creative, both online. We've made a YouTube star of one of our employees with crafts. We quite literally, and this is a badge of honor I'll carry around for a long time, caused a SIG alert with the trunk or treat event that we did back in October. And we found creative ways to get kids out practicing youth sports, even though competitions haven't been allowed by the state. We have new programs to disinfect our playgrounds, new protocols for how police officers work. We've adjusted street sweeping, pivoted to a lot of online services. We're able to get back away from them to in-person activity for a little bit in City Hall, but we've had to put a stop to that as well. Our new challenge, I think, is going to be helping the county promote its vaccination programs. If you saw the news today, they announced their first super site for vaccines at Disneyland. We expect somewhere between 3 and 4 others to come online. The county's stated goal, at least stated to city managers, is to have a vaccine in anyone who wants it by July 4th. That's a long way away, but it's also really great to think about the prospect of as many as 4 million people in our county having been inoculated in a little less than 6 months.
Does that include second shots?
I believe it does.
Okay. All right. And I am here on the record applauding all of the efforts that the city has undertaken. The city has been phenomenally supportive, and you deserve the awards that you have received and further recognition. But I think the SIG alert was absolutely the best. That was great.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was fun.
Yes. All of the efforts of the city and the nonprofits and the businesses show incredible tenacity and creativity under adverse circumstances, made worse, in my opinion, by the state government constantly changing the rules. So you never knew when you got up in the morning whether what you were doing the day before was still allowed. Okay, so here we are. What good came out of all of your efforts over the last few months to address the COVID-19 conditions? Hank?
So, like you said in the beginning when you were talking and said, the aha, oh yeah moments. So I want to go back to Colleen, and during this time, I was in my second year of presidency of the local Kiwanis Club. So to hear what Colleen said about Zoom, this was exactly what we were going through at the same period of time. And Colleen, I am so disappointed that I did not have an opportunity to talk to you, because bingo would have been an absolute phenomenon for us at that point in time. I may actually introduce that into our divisional group, which is an additional 13 clubs outside of our local. The other thing, when John talked about how the city really looked to try to help prop up the service clubs, our fundraising really has historically been for the local Cypress Kiwanis Club been the festival, which of course we know didn't happen this year. So it was all of this happening along with business at the same period of time for me. If I can, one of the things that I'd like to kind of put out to your listeners, and also hopefully this reaches maybe more of the general public, the thing that really benefited me, my club members, being part of this service group, gave us insight and communications into the city as well, and into the greater population of other service clubs. So if there are folks out there that really don't feel they have a good grip on what's going on, are getting information solely from maybe the television or from the internet, having an opportunity to be part of these clubs really gives you a greater insight. So that was one of probably the greatest things that happened. From a business standpoint, we had to make some decisions. We didn't feel, as things progressed and got into the summer, started to go into the fall, we foresaw that this was not going to change anytime soon. We became concerned about the security issue that I spoke about, using remote PC, easily hackable. We have clients' personal private information that we have to secure. So we found ourselves with a need to try to find a solution for this. As we began to do research on what that solution was going to be, there was going to be a considerable expense involved in having to set up a completely new server system, having to put in firewalls and different internet services and all of these kinds of things. Well, at about the same time that we were taking a look at this expense, on a Thursday afternoon, Pete popped out a little blurb that said, "We have some money. This is called the Small Business Relief Program. If you're interested in doing this, you have a limited amount of time to put in an application." Well, this for me was like somebody putting a parachute on my back. And I said, "Oh my God, I can't even believe this." Boom, the application went in, because these dollars were dedicated to things other than the original wage prop up of the payroll protection program. And it was almost as if the grant was written with my name and my need on it. So we were fortunate enough to be able to get the grant. This gave us the immediate ability to move forward, put all of these things in place. So subsequent to this, and this is where Shelley, you and Tim and I, when we had our conversation a couple of months ago about the possibility of this meeting, and I was telling you the story, this truly for us was a complete 180-degree game changer. We now have a fully secure office. We have the ability to fully securely work remotely. It's also given us an unintended positive consequence to be able to now look at offering opportunities to people who want to be in the insurance business to be able to work remotely. And I think truly for us, this is what's going to move our agency into the future of what insurance is going to look like moving on. So that was the most incredible positive result that I could have never envisioned.
Okay, so we need to move along because we are almost into question and answer time. Colleen,
Shelley,
yes?
before we move on, I had a thought, because we've talked about this. There are nonprofits that, obviously it's been a year now since nonprofits have had the ability to do any of the normal event fundraising, and I think it's a great time to put a reminder out there that anybody watching, that if contributing to a nonprofit, even a business nonprofit like the Chamber of Commerce, in order to keep the Chamber of Commerce going, in order to keep those nonprofits active and going, is maybe a time to step up and reach out. The Chamber has put together a donation button on their website and are accepting donations, because all our events have been shut down for a year. And I know all the nonprofits have had all their events shut down. So,
And the Cypress Chamber website is?
cypresschamber.org. And of course, there's lots of places to find all the, nonprofits that are very active in the city of Cypress. So
Indeed.
just a reminder. Yes, and we do have a question, and anybody who wants to, there's a Q&A button down at the bottom. So you click on the Q&A button and you type in a question, and we're hoping to get to a few of those. So proceed.
Okay, Colleen, any good come out of all of this?
Yes, I think the word of the year is going to be pivot. Everybody seems to be using it, and that's what we've had to do, just like everyone else. We have a project that's our president's project that was already going for a year before this happened. It's called Kindness Bags. And what we do is we make up gift bags with things like toilet paper and other essentials for homebound seniors that are part of the Meals on Wheels program. And on a monthly basis, we deliver a kindness bag to seniors. And each month we have a theme. What's really great is the Chamber of Commerce has helped us by putting that flyer out to their members. And some of their members have stepped forward to contribute the items that we need so that we can help homebound seniors. Our members have been very generous and donated money and in-kind items to help with that project and other projects. We've actually added new members to our club during this shutdown. And the reason why is there are people out there who are trapped at, we won't say trapped at home, they're safe at home, but they feel compelled to do something to help the people around them. And so we offer them the ability to do that. They can join our club and help contribute to these projects, their time, their talent, their money, whatever they want to contribute. So we do the kindness bags once a month. We did donations to the City of Cypress Holiday Adopt a Family program. Our members dug into their pockets, wrote checks, and we were able to buy gift cards for that. We've made in-kind donations to Seal Beach Animal Care Center to help the animals with blankets and towels and things that if we're cleaning out our cabinets, that's a place we can donate those. We had a nonprofit who advertised that they had pairs of socks, brand new socks that are individually packaged in the pairs that were donated to them, and they were trying to find nonprofits that needed them. So I called her up and I said, okay, how many pairs do you have to get rid of? She had 25,000 pairs of socks. We
Wow.
found homes for 8,000 of those
Wow.
with crime survivors who helps local victims of crime, with Hope, that's our homeless program, with some other programs here in town and surrounding areas. We found homes for 8,000 pairs of those. Our members donated cake mixes and frostings to Hope when they asked us for it. So our members have been really generous. Right now, what we're focused on is the future. We're going to keep doing everything we've been doing. Number one is keeping our members connected, because we have 83 people who want to help. We just need to find things for them to do. So we've applied for a grant from the city that Mayor John Pete talked about to replace some of the lost funding we had, so that we don't hang on to that money. We keep very little of what we raise. We donate it out to the community. So any money we get, then we can help some of the smaller nonprofits that maybe don't have the ability to write grant proposals. We can help them with that. We have pandemic friendly projects, like we're going to start making gowns for Operation Smile for children that are having cleft palate and cleft lip surgeries. Great pandemic friendly project that our members can do from home. And then we're always looking for ways to hold online fundraisers and social events, again, to connect our members, but also our slogan is friendship with a purpose. And so we're friends, but we have a purpose out there to make a difference in the community. And we're doing it. And we're always, always open to anyone else who would like to help us make a difference in Cypress. So I put our email address, wccypressca@gmail.com, in the chat. Anybody's welcome to contact us.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mayor Pete, what good has come out of COVID-19 for the city of Cypress?
Well, first I want to say the bingo game was a lot of fun, but I'm still waiting for a new card that has the right numbers on it. Hank, you would definitely enjoy the bingo. It's a lot of fun. The Women's Club has a great setup. And Hank, thank you for that sharing your story, because that's exactly why we put that program together, to make sure that we're making.
When I heard him tell it before, I knew that we had to have him on the panel. It's a great story.
So we've been able to distribute 150 $7,500 grants back in like September, October of last year, through the money that we received from the county, 1.1 million. We've set aside another $2 million, 1.9 million from the city, and we got another 150,000 from the county that we're going to distribute in the programs that Mr. Grant described. 300,000 of that is earmarked for supporting our nonprofits. So we'll be working on that. Those grant applications should be in now and will be processed, and we hope to be able to provide the support to the nonprofits in the March-April timeframe. So we'll be reaching out to them to help support them. I think from a city standpoint, we've learned how to do a lot of things differently than we used to. So we've really expanded our capabilities as a city. We understand remote working. We've been able to continue to move forward with some of the we've continued doing the city's, and so we've been able to get some major projects approved and that are going to be great benefits to the city. We've moved forward with the new park over at Lexington and Cerritos that we've broken ground on that. We're going to start developing a new capability for our residents to enjoy. We've approved a couple of other projects. The development of the city town center over on Catella is still moving forward, and so those are exciting things that the residents are going to be able to watch over the course of the year, this year. And we've really, I think, grown so much closer together as a community because we've been able to. People have come forward with needs, and the nonprofits, the residents, and the city have all been able to reach out and provide support to the food banks. One of the other nonprofits that's been very active and has been very active is the Boys and Girls Club. They started a food distribution program, and each week they receive donations from the Rotary Club and from Kiwanis and from local churches and other organizations and from residents. And they've been able to distribute food to needy families, 60, 70 families each week. And so we've really seen a growing together of the community as needs are being met by people that have that have the ability to do that. So I think when we emerge from this, our community is going to be a much even a closer community, much tighter, and we will have discovered ways to serve and help each other that we would never have done before had not these needs been brought forward. So, and while it's been a great challenge, our community will be much stronger having gone through this.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Grant, from your perspective, what good has come from COVID-19?
Well, to amplify an important point that the mayor made, with the council's support and creativity, we've really managed to keep business as usual in an unusual way. Important projects have still gotten through. Your toilet's flush, your trash gets picked up, someone comes when you call 911. Those things have all required a lot of hard work behind the scenes so that from a customer's perspective, it does look in large part like business as usual. One of the things that we've been working on hard, but somewhat patiently before the pandemic was turning city services really into a on-demand approach. Right? You can come to City Hall and we're going to staff it if you need to, but there's no reason you ought to only be able to do business with the city between 9 and 5. And those were all plans that we were going to bring in over time and move plan check and plan submittal, a lot of stuff into a digital environment. That all happened very quickly and somewhat flawlessly and much faster than we'd ever imagined. So that's been a real positive aspect in terms of your ability to interact with your city on your time going forward. A great way to do that now is our app, which you can find for iOS or Android. It's called Cypress Central. Gives you the ability to keep up to date on what's happening with the city, report code enforcement issues, check events that are happening when they come back. Those have all been really positive things. And I want to give a shout out to Cypress School District in particular in terms of adaptation and business as usual. We are one of only a handful of communities to have the full spectrum of educational options for our younger kids, where they can be in person, they can be in a hybrid, or they can go to school from home. That has been, and I think will be, a generational investment in the success of Cypress students that a lot of communities that didn't have a responsive, creative, local school district aren't going to benefit from. And that certainly falls into one of the best things that happen, I think, is to recognize what a great elementary school district we have in town.
Okay, I will throw in my 2 cents worth from Orange County Breeze as far as what good has come out of COVID-19. Actually attending city council meetings remotely turns out to be a lot more convenient than schlepping down there, but it comes with a drawback. I cannot sidle up to the people after the meeting and ask questions the way I have been used to doing. So I have to remember my questions, jot them down, and send email if I want to get questions answered. But, you know, I will be very happy to go back to in-person city council meetings, even though I have to, yeah, even though I have to go there in person to do it. Okay, so quick run through because we're almost out of time. What are your goals? Pick one for July 15th if we're going to aim for, or July 5th if we're going to aim for everybody with a vaccine by July 4th. What's a goal? Hank?
We're very simply, with the infrastructure that we have, we're looking to add new producers. I'm looking to add 3 new agents to our roles and over the next year.
Okay, Colleen?
To keep all of our membership in our club and make sure we don't lose any people that fall by the wayside because of separation during the pandemic. Keep them engaged, keep them moving forward. So as soon as we can come together again, we're ready.
Very good. Mayor Pete?
I think for us, one of the main things we've heard from the community is how much they miss the community engagement activities like concerts on the green and festivals and things like that. So I think we're going to be looking to see within the safety protocols how much of those types of events can we reestablish so that the community can get outdoors and become more engaged.
Okay. Mr. Grant?
We'll be in recovery mode operationally. I think the getting back to normal is going to be a years-long process, whether it's our events or supporting our businesses. Our goal on July 5 will be forward focused instead of reaction focused. It's going to be a ton of work, but it's going to feel really great.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Okay, we have one question in the Q&A section from Judy Wagner. What can the senior center do to help those seniors who are unable to get to the center? In a lot of cases, these people have no social contact with anyone. They rely solely on coming to the senior center to see and talk to others. The Monday Night Senior Citizens Club and the Thursday Afternoon Sunshine Club have close to 200 members. We have around 80 to 100 of these people come and play bingo for fun prizes. They also are unable to go to the day trips and longer trips that were organized by the tour managers. These were very important to many, so I guess that can be addressed to either Mr. Mayor or Mr. City Manager. Do you have special outreach for people who relied on the senior center for their social life? You're muted, Mr. Mayor.
So I would ask our city manager, we've been very active in meal distribution and engagement through the senior center. Currently, our police department is utilizing a portion of the senior center as we remodel the police station. But I don't know the operations specifically. Perhaps Mr. Grant, you can tell us what we can do in addition to what we're already doing.
Throughout the pandemic, we've been doing, we call them welfare checks, but we've been checking in on all of the seniors who we had contact information for. Happens once a Zoom call, no matter what.
Absolutely.
On one side of the computer, the headset's on the other. So we've been keeping in touch with folks that way. Meal distribution is a point of contact, whether they come to the senior center or commodity distribution, or we're delivering food directly to their homes. Obviously, all of the health orders restrict every activity that Judy cites in her question. So we're only able to engage with folks so much. For the seniors who are, and in our surveys, this is something 80+%, who are the seniors who are engaged with us digitally. There's a lot of great activities and connection taking place through our social media feeds, as long as some of the community groups. We have resources available through the county related to mental health and family connections, those sorts of things. The county's COVID-19 website is a really, really good one. And while I'm plugging county resources and websites, as part of their vaccination rollout, they are in search of volunteers to help deliver the inoculations, as well as provide the back end support for those programs. And if that's something that you're interested in doing, you can go to oneoc.org, and it'll give you access to all of those different volunteer opportunities. They're going to need the help of willing, able-bodied folks to get 4 million vaccines delivered. So please consider that if you have the opportunity.
Can you
So I would like to add
that oneoc.org, is that the number one OC?
I believe it's the word.
ONE.
ONEOC. Yep.
.org. Okay, that's great.
So I would just like to say, Colleen, we participated in the Women's Club Bingo, and perhaps, Pete, that's something that we can adapt as an activity, because it was a lot, and that might be another way that we can, an activity that we can participate in and roll out to our seniors who are not able to come to the center and are looking for more ways to be engaged.
And I think that's been a challenge for every organization, and we've all talked about it, that especially organizations that have relied on live networking, like the community festival, like our business awards program, all those events that really give people a chance to get together and see each other 3, 4, or 5 times a year. It's been a year with nothing. I remember the last live event I went to was Americana in 2020 in February, just before the shutdown, and everybody was like, what is this COVID thing? And there were 350 people in the room, all who had been sort of hesitant to shake hands because they knew something was coming, and thank goodness they didn't shake a lot of hands. But yeah, that was a challenge, and it's been a dry year from a social standpoint. So it's been a challenge for everybody. You guys all had some great information to share. We really appreciate you taking the time and to sharing your information. And we're sorry that we lost a couple of our attendees at kind of very undue circumstances naturally. And it's kind of weird, but we're happy that you guys had lots of good information to share. And so our panel continued on. Thank you. Shelley, any
Indeed.
last words?
All I can say is if you have good ideas, get a hold of one of these organizations. Get a hold of the city, get a hold of the Women's Club, get a hold of the chamber. Tell them your ideas. Ask if you can volunteer. Ask if you can help. Get a hold of one OC and say, I'm here to help with the COVID-19 vaccinations. Tell me how. There's no need to feel isolated and alone, either as a business or as a nonprofit or as an individual. There's lots still to do out there. That's it. Thank you all for participating, either as a panelist or as a someone watching. Thank you. We are done, I think.